Right now, chicken breast in Canada hits over $15 a kilo, and in the US, you could pay under 10. Both are official numbers from late 2025. Which country's system is quietly taking more out of your pocket? Let's put both meat aisles side by side. The truth will shock you. Stay until the end because we share how you can get the best Canadian price without sacrificing quality. First, remember when chicken was boring cheap. Can you even remember a time when chicken didn't feel risky at checkout? Back in 2020, Canadian chicken lived in the background of your grocery runs, hovering around $7.64 per kilo, according to Statistics Canada. For a family picking up 2 kilos a week, the yearly chicken spend circled $800. It was steady. It was boring. The cost blended into your memory, never jumping out to scare you. In the United States, whole chickens just before the pandemic were going for about $1.50 per pound. That means you were paying around $3 a kilo in American money. Again, nothing flashy. No one stood in the aisle comparing receipts or doing currency math in their head. Chicken was simply dinner, no drama, no headlines. Here's why that memory matters. Back then, beef was the splurge, pork prices were up and down, but chicken was the quiet one. The safe protein that didn't cause stress. It's exactly that stability that makes today's prices sting so much. The shock isn't just the new number, it's how much the ground moved beneath your feet. But if you're thinking, was it always this way? Hang on, because when you see what's changed, the new price tags won't look random anymore. And just wait until you see how today's prices line up side by side. 2026 price scoreboard, Canada versus USA, same bird, same math. Now, imagine grabbing the same tray of chicken in Canada and the US. But this time, every number is measured in the same units and currency. In late 2025, Canadian grocery stores put chicken at just over $10 a kilo on average. But if you're after boneless chicken breast, you're looking at more than $15 per kilo. Those numbers come straight from government reports, so there's no mystery. Meanwhile, in December 2025, US shoppers paid just over $2 a pound for a whole chicken, or about $4.45 per kilo. Boneless breasts were running over $4 a pound, so around $9 a kilo in American currency. But that's not the end of the story. Exchange rates matter, and in 2025, every American dollar was worth about $1.40 Canadian. That flips the US price for a whole chicken to just over $6 per kilo for a Canadian shopper, and the boneless breast to almost $13 per kilo. So here's where you see the real spread. A Canadian shopper pays $10 to $15 per kilo for chicken, while their American neighbor is spending $6 to $13 for the same amount. And that's after adjusting for currency and measuring everything the same way. There's no trick math here, just a sharp split. If you're wondering, does it really add up over time? Wait until you put those prices into a full year's meals, and the gap starts to look much bigger when you zoom out. How much more? Per year is Canada paying? Think about this. If you're a parent buying 2 kilos of boneless chicken breast every week because it's easy, the kids eat it, and you're tired, how much are you out of pocket by year's end? In Canada, that weekly trip adds up to over $30, and by the time December rolls around, you've spent about $1,580 just on chicken. Meanwhile, that same haul in the United States, after converting to Canadian dollars, costs about $1,331 a year. The difference? It's about $250, real money just gone, for the exact same dinners. It isn't because Canadian families suddenly started eating fancier meals or doubled up on protein. You're not getting more for your money, and the chicken hasn't changed. The price split is all about what's behind the sticker. What nobody sees at the meat counter is that two families, one on each side of the border, can make the same recipe, feed the same kids, and still end the year with a $200 gap between their grocery bills. And that gap didn't appear overnight. So where did that extra cost actually come from? You might think it's just inflation, but the real answer is hidden deeper in how each country sets the rules. Stick with me, because the climb in Canadian prices hides a bigger story. Why did Canadian prices climb so much faster? You may be asking, why did Canada's chicken price creep up so much faster? The answer hides in a slow but stubborn rise. 5 years ago, chicken at the grocery store sat at $7.50 a kilo. By the fall of 2025, that number had stretched to over 10, and chicken breast broke the $15 line by November. That's not a random jump, that's a climb of almost 40% in 5 years. But the real action happens before the stores pay to get chicken in the first place shot up too. In late 2025, the Agri-Food Analytics Lab pointed to chicken breast wholesaling at more than $730 per 100 kilos, a record that was up $150 from just the year before. But here's where it turns. Canada runs chicken under supply management, a system with quotas on how much gets raised and limits on imports. The plan is to keep markets calm, help farmers, and block sudden price crashes. And it works, until costs like feed or fuel go up. Because once a price goes up, it sticks. Like climbing stairs, you go up a step and rarely come back down. As Professor Sylvain Charlebois put it in 2025, once a retail price goes up in Canada, it usually stays there. So, you're paying more each year. Not because you buy extra chicken, but because the system gently pushed the price up, then forgot to bring it down. No matter how careful you are with your budget, the rules already changed before you even walked into the store. You might think the US dodged this, but that's not the whole picture. In fact, their system has its own surprises, and a few bumps too. If you are still watching, remember to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on a single insight. So, why don't the US prices jump even higher? So, what's stopping US prices from racing even higher? It's not that American shoppers never feel the squeeze. Over the past 2 decades, chicken prices in the States almost doubled. One long-run study calculated the price of a whole chicken in the US jumped to 99% from the late 1990s through 2026. That's a lot of movement, even if the starting line was lower. But here's the twist. The US doesn't use the same supply management system. Instead, chicken prices are left to market competition. That means when the cost of feed drops or there's a supply bump, grocery prices can fall back too. There's more risk, but also more room for relief. Of course, the US gets rocked by outside shocks. Bird flu outbreaks, for example, have spiked the cost of eggs and chicken before, slashing supply and sending prices up in a matter of weeks. But after the worst passes and the flocks rebuild, the sticker price usually settles down again. You might remember in 2022 when egg prices doubled after avian flu hit, but by the next year, the prices fell back, and chicken followed a similar track. One more thing sets the US apart. Beef prices have climbed even faster, making chicken look like bargain meat in comparison. So even when chicken costs rise, they don't leapfrog beef, which helps keep demand steady and the starting point lower. In short, US shoppers don't get a free ride. They just started cheaper and, even after all the drama, still end up paying less per kilo than Canadians, especially once you factor in the real exchange rate. If you're thinking the answer is just to shop smarter, let's see what happens when you try to beat the system at the store. Does store hopping in Canada actually save you? If you've ever bounced from one grocery store to another chasing the lowest price, you're not alone. But does it actually move the needle? A deep price check in Ontario, late 2025, compared grocery baskets across 5 big stores. No Frills came out cheapest per item, with Walmart just a hair behind, and other chains like Sobeys, Loblaws, and Metro running higher on average. When Canadians are asked which stores feel cheapest for meat, No Frills is nearly always at the top, with Food Basics and Walmart in a close race. But what does that save you, really? If average stores in your area sell chicken around $10 to $11 a kilo, and the discount places cut maybe 50 cents to $1 off that price, the savings for a family eating a kilo a week would come to $25 to $50 a year. If your family is serious about chicken, say 2 kilos a week, you might save up to $100 over 12 months. That's real money, but here's the problem. It's not enough to erase the $250 gap that divides Canadian and US shoppers buying the same chicken breast. Shopping smart trims the edges, but it can't rewrite the price book. The system sets the high watermark, not the store you choose. But what if you could just skip the system altogether and cross the border? Let's see what that looks like in real life. Border mental picture. What if you could just drive south? Picture this. You live close to the border and fill your car with 10 kilos of boneless chicken breast. In Canada, that haul rings up at more than $150. Buy the exact same chicken in the US, convert it to Canadian dollars, and you're out about $128. That's almost $25 saved in a single trip. Do that once a month, and by the end of the year, you're ahead by $250 to $300, just from chicken before you count gas or border headaches. You didn't become a worse shopper, same dinner, same time of year, just with different rules around the price tag. On one side, the price is locked in higher. On the other hand, it floats up and down with the market. The ground shifted, and most people didn't even see it happen. Suddenly, one big shop in the US means an extra $20 stays in your pocket. But what does that mean for you right now if you can't just shop across the border? Because there's only so much you can do before the system calls the shots. So, who's really paying more in 2026, and what can you actually do? Step back and the verdict is clear. Canadians pay more per kilo, both for whole chickens and boneless breasts, after you even out the currencies and do the math the honest way. It's not just a story about individual stores. It's about a supply-managed system designed to protect farmers and prevent wild swings, but also one that's slow to bring prices back down when the world changes. If you want the lowest number on your Canadian receipt, your best bets are the discount chains. No Frills, Food Basics, and Walmart. They help, but they can't close the gap left by the system. Americans, for their part, have watched prices nearly double over a generation, but because their baseline started lower and their system lets prices drop, they still come out paying less by the end of 2025, even with every dollar converted. So if you ever wonder whether you're just losing your grip on money, you're not. The chicken you buy today costs more because the ground rules changed without your vote. And while you can fight back by planning, freezing, and timing your shops at the cheapest stores, the biggest part of your bill comes from choices made far away from the meat aisle. And that's the split that shapes every chicken dinner, no matter which side of the border you call home. The part nobody warns you about is how little control you have, and how easy it is to miss when the price quietly steps up and never steps back. What happens next, as prices keep shifting, is still up in the air. But as of 2026, it's simple. Same bird, same planet, different rules, and Canada pays more. But if you thought chicken was the end of grocery sticker shock, just wait until you see what's happening to your next favorite food. That's how the chicken math really stacks up. But if you want the next twist on what's quietly draining your food budget, you'll want to tap that subscribe button so you don't miss out. See you in the next one.